Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. If I may say so, especially under my colleagues on the other side, structural reform has always proved very difficult. Almost all the structural reforms that have been made in the United States have been made by Democrats, and they're not calling for structural reform as we've just done with the Affordable Health Care Act. I have a question. It could be Mr. Poole, it could be Mr. Reason. It is a question that is a rising issue and one that I have requested a hearing on. It has to do with airplane noise. When I say a rising issue, I mean all over the United States. Here in my own jurisdiction, and I represent the people of the nation's capital, but across, so much so across the nation that we formed a Quiet Skies coalition, a bipartisan coalition, to respond to issues that, by the way, Next Gen is just left right out there. Next Gen, we're making progress in the air. On the ground, people are complaining. And of course, as a result of those complaints, I've been able to have the FAA come to see me. I've asked for a hearing by this committee. And I would like to get some responses about how this private corporation might respond to an issue like Quiet Skies. So who would my constituents and the constituents of my colleagues call if they had noise complaints? Mr. Reason, Mr. Poole.
My understanding, Congresswoman, is that this would still be the FAA as the safety regulator that would have to approve procedures or deny new procedures. And so if procedures are changed so that noise goes up in a community impact, it would be the FAA's jurisdiction to say yes or no, or how to modify it. It would not be the corporation's discretion to just unilaterally do those things.
Did you have?
If the gentlelady
Yes.
yield, I can answer that question
Yes,
also.
sir. Yes.
Gentlelady
Yes,
yield?
yes, sir, I will. But it will not take from my time, I
Mr. Poole
hope.
is absolutely correct. If there's a noise issue or flight patterns change, there's a NEPA process and major federal actions that the FAA will continue to have after this transaction. Again, let me dispel the notion. This organization is not going to control the airspace. It's going to operate in the airspace with the FAA control over it. And so they have to go through this federal process by the NEPA, which the FAA sets up a review process and approves significant airspace changes. So if there's, especially related to metroplexes, major large-scale airspace redesign projects, they're going to have to go to the FAA, conduct a NEPA review, and any action taken will have to, again, be approved through the FAA. So once again, this is not just giving away willy-nilly the airspace. We will still, not only will we own the airspace, we'll still have an oversight over the airspace.
I thank the chairman for his response, and I've never heard of anything so bureaucratic in my life. In fact, I can't understand why we could leave one part of this operation under government control and take the other part, even though both are vital to all we do in the skies. I've never heard of efficiency being, and by the way, I hope my time wasn't taken because the chairman had an intervention, which I think was appropriate. So I don't understand how you could bifurcate the system, expect it to be more efficient, expect it to be more safe. Now, let me take an elephant in the room off the table. I will do it, if I may, by asking Mr. Rinaldi. Have you received any assurances from any of the proponents of this bill concerning collective bargaining, pensions, other workers' rights? Because otherwise I see a fresh controversy on top of the many controversies this bill has already given us. Mr. Rinaldi.
Thank you for the question, Madam. At this time, there is no bill in front of us, so there's nothing I can compare it to. In the 2016 AIR Act, there was strong language that gave us a fair bargaining process, and that was in there, and also a robust transition period that will allow us to keep everything we have and keep the workforce whole.
I take it you would insist upon that in any
Absolutely.
change.
That's bullet number 2 of reform.
Thank you very much.
I yield to the gentlelady an extra
Yes.
30 seconds sinds I took some of your time.
That's all right. With that question, I yield back.
I thank the gentlelady.